Welcome to the Circle of Trust, the podcast where campaigns and strategies to grow law firms are unveiled. Hosted by law firm Chief Marketing Officer Keith Dyer, the founder of LEXGRO. This podcast is dedicated to being a safe and objective place to educate and train law firm owners and personnel on the marketing secrets and strategies that bring in consistent cases and predictable revenue. Whether you're a solo practitioner, a small firm, or a multi-partner law firm ready to scale, this podcast and the LEXGRO platform are your trusted go-to source for objective and cutting-edge marketing and intake training. And now, Law Firm Chief Marketing Officer Keith Dyer with The Circle of Trust.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast. I'm excited today to welcome attorney Brittany Hernandez, who's a lot more than just an attorney, by the way. We're getting ready to find out. She does a lot of different things. Brittany, tell us a little bit about you. It looks like you live in Los Angeles or San Diego. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. I am actually from San Diego, but I live in Winchester now. And
Okay.
I'm licensed in California, went to Cal Western School of Law. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I see that you're the head of legal innovation, tech innovation. And I read a little bit about that, but I mean, this world we're living in, that's got to be a fast-paced endeavor and exciting. Tell us a little bit about how you sort of niched into that.
It's been a bit of a journey, but essentially after I graduated from law school, I realized that I really hadn't had a lot of education around legal technology and I wanted to learn more. So I took this course, Passport to Practice, and this one out of Germany called Bucerius Legal Tech Essentials, and started to learn about this world of AI, using that towards legal types of matters, how you can incorporate these different aspects of technology into your practice to increase revenue, to grow, and to scale. So I got really interested in that. I went and got a master's degree. And then after I came back, I really focused on how we can use these different tools to increase and scale, but also to reach a community of people that we haven't been able to reach before due to high billable hours. So I kind of went through this journey of education first. And now as the head of legal innovation at Gavel, I get to educate other lawyers about how to use technology in your practice. And obviously you have this kind of marketing angle. So there's that piece, but also how you can productize and scale through using AI tools and other automation tools.
Right. So when you say scale, that means at various stages in the processing of a case, you can utilize AI, or in other cases, just tell us a little bit, you think you know where I'm going with this question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So essentially what I'm thinking about here is this idea of there's a piece of automation and AI and technology that has to do with just efficiency and reducing the amount of time that you're spending on manual busy work and admin and all of those pieces that you can streamline using technology. And then there's another piece which has to do with growing your revenue and being able to take on more clients than you would be able to if you stayed true to the billable hour model. So thinking outside the box of how can we use technology to create legal products and offer things at a subscription model or a flat fee model, a one-time fee model. So just kind of expanding our understanding of how we can gain revenue and grow as a firm through things like you teach as well. I got to see some of your past podcasts as well. So lots of great value there too. But just thinking outside of what we've been taught from the traditional model and thinking about how we can incorporate technology in that practice to grow our firms from a revenue standpoint and not just thinking about it from a time savings and efficiency standpoint.
I got you. So you can actually create new business models.
Exactly. Yeah. So how can we think about creating new ways for clients and consumers to consume legal services? What does that look like? And I have some examples I can share as well.
I love that. I think it's really cool that you've done that. And I think you're ahead of your time. I got really interested in AI back in 2018, went back to school and got sort of a pseudo degree in it. That was something where you could kind of piece together a degree in AI technology for business as well as digital business. And I've been interested in it as well, but I kind of fell asleep on it a little bit because it was 2018 and nobody was talking about it that much. It wasn't the buzzword or the big industry that it is now. I mean, it was a huge industry then, but not all these things were being incubated at that time, you know?
Right.
And so now it's come back up. And so we're really deeply involved in it as well, more on the marketing side.
Mhm.
But it's going to touch every single thing that we do. And it doesn't matter if it's marketing, operations, new business models. I use it a lot to actually think about business models and say, what do you think of this particular model, and how do you think it might work, and what are the problems with it? Why could it fail? That kind of stuff, and really helps me with those kinds of insights. Anyway, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of AI, but I think that's great that you're doing that. And I think you're in the right place at the right time for that. Are you still practicing law now?
I have taken a pause on my practice so that I can focus fully on making sure that other lawyers know how to use this technology in their practice. It's not something I would really give up in the future, but for right now, I'm not taking on any new clients. But I did have my own practice for a couple of years before going into this space. So I understand the challenges of trying to figure out which technology to use from a very personal standpoint. So I had to spend all that time trying to compare different, legal practice management solutions, document automation solutions, and it's a full-time job sometimes just to learn that piece. So
Without a doubt.
I
Yeah.
know.
You're so right. There's so many different, softwares and options, and like piecing it together where it all works can be a challenge for sure.
Yeah. And you can spend a lot of time putting different things together and then realizing that the solution is too limited for you or has way too many bells and whistles, so you're overpaying. So I like to try to see how these different tools can work together and how can you streamline and optimize your tech stack so that you're not overpaying on multiple subscriptions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So when you were doing your own firm, what was some of your challenges in marketing it, and maybe there's some AI things that you learned that helped you with that. What were some of your challenges or frustrations with marketing, and maybe the fears that you had that it wasn't going to work? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost is going to be the lead generation piece, because a lot of the time in my particular business, I would get referrals. So people would know me and know that I was a lawyer and I worked in a particular space. So I focused on intellectual property and entertainment law. So that made it to where people who were, who knew me or were in the creative business were able to come to me for copyright advice, trademark advice, etc. So I think outside of those referrals, though, it's hard to generate new business, understanding your market, because that's not something that we learn in law school. We learn about torts and product liability and criminal law.
We're
And all
all
these
about
different
how
pieces.
to do it. It's not about how to do it. Right.
Yeah, we're not really taught. And that's why it's really important to have, LEXGRO, for example, so that we have that access to knowledge and information about how do we actually function as a business person versus the substantive law pieces. So I think that was a challenge to understand, how do I grow my business as someone who has to learn about marketing, and especially if you're a solo where you have to do everything yourself. So people who go to a larger firm like a DLA Piper, they're not really going to need to learn these things as much, because they're going to have a marketing department and a team that works specifically on or based on reputation alone. But if you're a solo and you're trying to find new business, it can be really difficult if you aren't trained in how to do marketing and lead generation. So I think that was a big piece, and how to kind of do that in a really efficient way was really challenging. So something that I kind of learned as I was going through all these different courses and learning about what's out there is how you can use AI or these kinds of rules-based automation pieces to not only draw someone to your website over somebody else through this kind of a lead magnet, but use that lead magnet in a strategic way that allows you to qualify that lead at the same time as intake their information, so that you have everything you need for when they actually book a consultation with you. And that makes it to where, as you're qualifying them, only the people who actually would be somebody that you could work with would go through all the way to the end and get your booking calendar. So not everyone gets your time. That was a challenge, especially as a solo, is that you don't have time for every single person who wants to just see. Right. So
you got to have somebody that wants to buy now and is going to, they fit your services, right? Like
exactly.
They fit what your niche is and what you're good at performing.
Exactly. Yeah. So in my case, for example, I did soft IP, which is the idea that I did copyright and trademark law, but not patent law. So if somebody has a patent question, I need to direct them to someone else, maybe refer them to someone that I trust or know who can help them with their matter. So maybe my questions would be something like, do you live in this particular jurisdiction? Do you have a copyright or trademark matter? And all these different pieces I can program what the questions say using this kind of no code tool that makes it to where you can say, okay, if the person says that they want to talk to me about a patent issue, then I want them to go to this page that shows them some referrals that we can send them to. But if the person says that they want a copyright or trademark matter, let them see this next question. So I like to combine that kind of qualification strategy with this kind of idea of a lead magnet strategy, where obviously we want to try to provide some kind of value that doesn't fully answer that question, but gives them some semblance of whether their matter is going to be something we can help them with, and give them a little bit of an answer to their question so that they can be enticed to continue through and talk to us on our initial consultation. So I do that using Gavel, which is our document automation software, but it also just works from a really good logic standpoint. So that makes it to where you're able to add those different questions and the different logic to have them go through those different branches and pieces and qualify them, as well as intake their information.
That's
so
awesome.
Trying to think strategically about lead generation, and not just, do I have a white paper or some kind of guide or a one pager that they can download? How can I combine these different pieces together?
Right. So you're getting more qualified leads and wasting less time qualifying leads.
Exactly. So especially, like I said, if you're solo and you don't have a virtual receptionist yet, for example, you want to only have people booking on your calendar that you actually want to spend time talking to. But obviously there's that too, which is, even if you're solo, who should you kind of reach out to for services so that you can have someone else answering the phone while you get to work on your client's matters?
I love it. That's awesome. That's really insightful and I like how granular you get in things. That's really cool. Have you, like, when in your process of kind of building this whole thing, did you have any influences that you can point to? Meaning, like, are there any experts in the law firm field or law firm marketing field, any either one, just in general, that you follow, that you find to be useful or have been useful in the past?
Yes. So there's kind of a couple of different
read or courses.
Yeah, definitely. So the courses that I specifically went through that helped me get really excited about legal technology and more knowledgeable about it. There's a group of people who put together the Passport to Practice one that I mentioned earlier. That was back in 2020. I think they've done a couple of cohorts, and then they also made a course on like the modern lawyer. And then
Passports to Practice.
Passport to Practice. Yeah, that's the one that I took. I haven't been following up. To see if they're still doing it every year, but I found that to be really helpful. I took an incubator course through my law school they were specifically for people who were graduating and wanted to go solo. So I was able to learn about all these different courses through, it was called the Access to Law Initiative. So there might be, for lawyers out there, there might be an incubator course that you can take at your law school that's going to help you get access to a year free of LexisNexis or get certain discounts for different types of technology. So I definitely check that out. And then also there's a school in Germany, Bucharest Law School, and they have a really good program called Legal Tech Essentials, which is free every year and virtual. It's like a couple weeks long. So I took that. That's run by Dan Katz and Dirk Harding, and they are obviously experts in that area. So I also like to follow.
I really like it whenever I'm on these podcasts and I'm learning lots of things. You're teaching me.
Great. But yeah, there's tons of great podcasts out there. I feel like if you want to learn about, for example, alternative billing models, Matthew Kurbis is a really good person to follow. He has the Subscription Attorney. So he talks about how he has built his practice around a subscription model. I always like to hear our founder, Dorna's podcast, because she's a lawyer herself, and she came from Big Law and then saw all of these opportunities to automate the different pieces of what she was doing. And so I think her story is really interesting. So anything that she's on, she doesn't have her own podcast, but she's on a lot of different podcasts. So look for her. I also like to follow anything that Erin Levine is doing. She's the founder of Hello Divorce. She's a family law attorney who used our platform to create Hello Divorce, which is basically a DIY divorce platform. And that goes to what I was saying about how you can think about different ways that people consume legal services. This is a DIY model, but also has hybrid options. So for the person who wants just to fill out their forms and they don't want any help from an attorney, they just want to be able to fill out their forms in an accurate and efficient way, then they can spend $400. They can get their forms, but they don't have any time with a lawyer or a mediator or a financial consultant or anything like that. Then they have a different tier that's going to be like $1,500 or $3,800, depending on what package they want. So I really like that price certainty and the thinking outside of the billable hour model of how can I reach different tiers of people who have different needs in the same process. So for example, the DIYer is going to want to, go for that particular plan, but somebody who wants the lawyer to do all of the forms for them would pick a higher package who has a higher budget.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I really like watching her.
Right. I'm gonna have to learn more about her as well and about the whole company.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the company more in a general way, so we can understand it?
Sure. So as you mentioned earlier, I'm the head of legal innovation at Gavel. Gavel is a document automation and redlining and negotiation company where we provide solutions to lawyers that help them to streamline their practice, save 20 plus hours per week on all these kind of manual document generation pieces. So essentially you have this platform where you get to customize how your templates are generated and how you can put different conditions, like I was mentioning earlier, around the documents that are generated, the clauses that are inside them, what questions are asked. And then we just launched, actually it's publicly launching today, a redlining and negotiation tool that's directly inside Microsoft Word. It's called Gavel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so really excited about that. So we're trying to think about the workflow of a lawyer and thinking about how, like all the way from the beginning when you talked about marketing and lead generation, how can we simultaneously do lead generation, client intake, lead qualification, and all these pieces, have that ready to go for all that data is stored in a way that you can reuse it. So that's the part that I think is really useful, is that you're not retyping anything that you already have. So you can reuse that information, have that go into your templates, answer whatever additional questions need to be asked, and then it's going to populate all of your documents at once with all the conditions that you mentioned. So, or that you've coded into that particular questionnaire. So it's really exciting. It does make it to where you're able to have.
I really want to learn more about it. I think that, this is, if anybody's not paying attention to these kinds of things, not just the AI, but even the automations you're talking about, it's going to be, they're going to be at a disadvantage. It's going to be very difficult for them to compete because their competitors will be able to do things faster, more efficiently, so they can focus more time on getting more cases and that sort of thing. So I totally see the value in all of this, and I really like it. So if you could sort of like imagine what the future law firm would be like, if you could like wave a magic wand and like in your mind's eye, if you will, and probably tapping into the vision of the owner of your company as well. Like, what would the future of law firms look like in terms of the way that they run?
Well, I actually would look at it from the other perspective and more on the side of what does the client experience look like? Mm-hmm. So for example, what would it look like? And that would guide what the law firm looks like. So I think more and more people are now used to, interacting with technology. So we might have more client portals. We might have more people who are able to save their questionnaires and come back. If having them be part of that process, having more price certainty. So I think that it's going to be really driven by what is the optimal client experience and what does a law firm have to do to modify themselves to adapt to those expectations.
I love that. Yeah. So you're taking the client first approach, which is what you've got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really smart because the way that we buy products is different than it was 5 years ago, different than it was 10 years ago for sure. And it only changing. And the more we advance technologically, the more things change, and you got to keep up with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you always should be looking at it from the customer or the client's perspective. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually this really great quote that I just heard recently, and it's that AI won't replace lawyers, but lawyers who use AI will replace those who don't.
Yeah, I
So
saw that.
I find that really fascinating. Yeah, there's a couple of articles and people have been quoting it around. And I think it's really fascinating because it is that idea, like you mentioned, where it's not really about, you using it just to use it. It's that your competitors are using it and you're not. And so they're going to be able to offer things to the clients that would be yours if you had implemented these strategies. So I think that's really interesting to kind of think about that from the perspective of it's really about, like you said, being client centric and how can we think about their experience rather than our own from that kind of what does the law firm look like, but more about what does the client experience look like and how can we get there for them.
I totally agree. And this has been a fascinating conversation. I feel like we should talk more, but we are kind of on a little bit of a deadline today, our short-term podcast. But this has been great. I've enjoyed learning about your company, enjoyed learning about you. Would like to know more about you, actually. Maybe we could do another one at some point. I'd be happy to be on any podcast you have.
Amazing.
But I want to say thank you for being on here, and hold on with us just for a minute as we end it so we can get everything uploaded. But thank you so much, Brittany.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Circle of Trust. If you found today's insights valuable, consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring outstanding content. For additional resources, show notes, and exclusive offers, visit our website at lexgro.com, where you can join our platform for free. By joining the platform, you can take our marketing training to become certified in law firm marketing and intake. And you can hire fractional executives and trained virtual assistants to easily implement your marketing strategies. For those ready to take action and explore how a fractional chief marketing officer can transform law firm success, scheduling a strategy call is just a click away. Simply follow the Calendly link in the description box below. Remember, the journey to 7 to 8 figures starts with the right strategies and support for implementation. Join us again next time for another exciting episode. Until then, listeners are encouraged to keep innovating, growing, and uncovering the secrets to predictable and consistent growth. See you next time on The Circle of Trust. Let's grow with LEXGRO.